from the select board, we have myself, Amy Parsons. We have Jane Nevin-Smith, Randy Iser, Molly Keegan, and Joyce Chunglo. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022, signed by the Governor on February 15th, 2022, I announce that this meeting of the Select Board is being recorded by Hadley Media, the Select Board's office, via Zoom, and ask if there is anyone present who is also recording this meeting. Are there any hands raised on here? Okay. If no one else is recording, let the minutes reflect that no one else has indicated that they are also recording this meeting. Okay. And could you guys all hear me? There was nothing choppy or anything like that. Just want to make sure.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Well, being so close to the university, it's a little difficult. We're all sharing bandwidth down here. Okay, so we're going to go into the special town meeting public forum, and I'm going to pass it off to Carolyn. And I believe there's a presentation as well, PowerPoint.
Thanks, Amy. I'll wait till that gets pulled up. So I just want to go over the intent of the forum. And the intent of the forum is the Select Board's intention in presenting this is to provide voters with an overview and context for the annual town meeting, improve the voters' understanding of individual warrant articles, and offer voters an opportunity to ask questions. The forum is not intended to take any vote, favorable or unfavorable, other than the Select Board's recommendation, provide any group or individual the opportunity to advocate for a particular article, or speak for or against an article. And this next slide, I'd like to just pass this over to Linda Sanderson so she can give an update on where we are with our starting balances that have been certified.
Sure, it's always good to start a town meeting with knowing what we have in the bank before we spend it. These balances are as of July 1. Our free cash, water reserves, sewer reserves, and Hadley Media reserves were just certified by Department of Revenue as of July 1. We got that information a few weeks ago. You'll see some spending out of these throughout the meeting. Our capital stabilization is $51,952. There's no spending out of that. There's no spending out of general stabilization this meeting, which is $1,995,000. No spending out of water stabilization, which is $232,000. No spending out of sewer impact, which was $159,000, and then CPA funds is something over $2 million. You'll probably see a different figure from Mary Thayer later in this meeting. That's because CPA changes regularly. Going back up to free cash, our $1,369,000. We'll be spending that down to just a little bit under $1 million, which is probably pretty much ties with our record last year of what we're going to be able to take into town meeting, annual town meeting in the spring. And yes, no money will be spent out of water or sewer reserves. In fact, we're going to close out some articles and boost those up just a little bit. And Hadley Media Reserves at $149,668 only has $5,000 coming out of it. So there we are.
Thanks, Linda. And so I'm going to go right to Article 1, unless is there any questions about those balances?
No.
Okay. All right. This is Article 1 amends the FY 2023 general fund, basically the operating budget sorry about that, which was passed at the annual town meeting held on May 4th of 2023. And so I'm going to go over some of those to explain what some of those increases are. The treasurer, it's the budget and capital programs. That's a software to help with budgeting and presentation and record keeping. So that amount is $25,575. The legal expenses, we have 2 unions were created this past year. So those beginning negotiations and collective bargaining agreements that I've been working on, there's an addition of that. We've also had additional issues that obviously, because some of them are in executive session, I can't go into detail, but it's the legal counsel that's needed to address those and support the town. Building operations, IT and computers, that's a replacement to get back on track with replacing computers for town employees. And so that's $20,000. The insurance deductibles is basically increasing the deductibles to save on premiums. The police cruiser that had been taken out, it's been in the operating budget at times, but other times it's been just borrowed and come up as needed. But it's happening every single year, so it makes more sense to put it in the operating budget, so it's anticipated and can be budgeted in a much better way. So that's what that police cruiser's for. The Board of Health mosquito control fee, we just need to pay that bill. We didn't budget for it. It was an oversight. The Veteran Services, there was an increase of $2,000. That's what that is. And then the number at the bottom it says unions, contracts, and salary adjustments. That is an impact of over multiple budgets, about 12 to 13 budgets. And that's the result of collective bargaining for these new unions, as well as other salary adjustments, and so that those that did not fit into a union or did not have contracts would also be getting a comparable increase. It's also for individual contracts that were negotiated. So that is, any questions about Article 1?
You just want to tell people what Select Board and Finance recommended?
Yes, Finance Committee recommends 500 and Select Board recommends 500. Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you.
Article 2 is the cleanup articles. It is let's see. I think I'm gonna do 2-1 and 2-2 together. Basically, those are both cleanup articles. One is the highway mini loader that was passed at the special town meeting in 22, and not all of it was spent, so that money goes back to the free cash, which is where part of it came from, water reserves and sewer reserves. 2.2 is similar for those capital expenses that were paid for out of borrowing. We did not need to borrow as much. The cost came in lower, so those are amended authorized borrowing. And for both of those articles, it was the same. Finance Committee voted 500. Select Board recommended 500. Keep going.
Yep.
Linda, did you want to? Oh, let's see. You just want to go over this first page before I move on to the next?
This is because we're heading into the capital articles. This is what we're starting out with, and this is what we read at the top of the meeting here. Across the top are the free cash, water reserves, sewer reserves, and Hadley media reserves balances, and those are the only amounts that we're spending out of during this meeting. If everything is passed, on the second line are the articles not counting capital. That's what's coming out of it. Article 1 was just what we just passed on the budget. Water and sewer, those are negative because we just did the cleanup articles. And then that leaves the amount that's being spent on the third line there, total of Article 3. Those are the capital articles, capital items we'll go over shortly. 80,000 is coming out of free cash and 5,000 is coming out of media reserves. And then you see on the bottom line that if everything, not just the capital, but all the other articles pass at this meeting, those are the balances that we will have in those particular funds after, at the end of the meeting. And they will carry and stay at that level until we go into annual town meeting.
All right, any questions? Okay, as we move to Article 3, Randy, do you want to take over from here? I can certainly fill in if you need anything more.
You can just keep going, Carolyn. You're doing so well, but
Oh.
I mean, it's just going to be reading
Okay.
so I mean, I can certainly read it if you'd like.
It doesn't matter. I was giving you
So,
practice for tomorrow.
well, let me ask a question before we start. We had talked previously about this being divided into 4 separate articles. Is that still the case, or is this going to be voted on as one?
Linda, you want to answer that?
Yeah, this is last year we started doing the capital as a capital budget and passing it in a single motion, and it worked. It worked well last year. We covered all of the town's capital needs, going through them one by one, but the final vote was to approve the capital budget just as we approved the operational budget. The total capital last year being approved was 1.8 million. So we had said at the time that there was a need for it and that we would be cutting back this year. And I think you can see from this list that that is exactly what's happened. So we do have these 4 items that will be explained a bit further. The first 3 are cash reserves. We'll cover them, and the third is a borrowing within the levy. This is not a debt exclusion item. It will not increase your taxes. It's paid within the amount that we have allocated already in the budget for payment of debt and interest. Okay. So yes, we had talked about it differently, Randy, and then as I was going through last year's meeting, I realized that we had gone about things differently, and I thought I'd send out a memo on that, but to explain. But I think it worked well last year, and I think that it would be nice to continue that.
Hello?
Okay. So we have four items in need here. First one's the town IT replace the server. That's $20,000 coming out of free cash. Dispatch, computer aided emergency medical dispatch protocol. That's $60,000 coming out of free cash. Hadley Media is looking for computers, cameras, and audio-visual equipment for $5,000 coming out of the Hadley Media reserves. And then the DPW is looking for new building schematics for $225,000, and that would be borrow within the levy. And is it safe to assume that appropriate people will be discussing these various items if anybody has questions out in the audience?
Yes.
Okay.
Randy, it looks like there is one question from Kathy Nelson.
Okay, Kathy Nelson.
Hi, I'm just wondering what is meant by new building schematics. We haven't met with an architect or anyone about the DPW yet? Is this from the ground up, or what does this mean?
Yeah, so I'm a member of the DPW Feasibility Study Committee, and what we're trying to do is figure out a way to build a new DPW complex, if you will, and we have to start somewhere. Well, we've determined that it makes sense to build it on the existing site, and we're trying to just get some plans started so that we can figure out how much money it's actually going to cost to build this building. And the number that we feel is appropriate is $225,000.
Okay. I'm sort of itching to be on your committee. We wanted to be an all electric building. But anyway.
We can discuss that down the road.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are we done with that one?
It looks like it. I'm not seeing any questions. So let me just go through the recommendations. Let's see. Okay, so the Capital Planning Committee recommended 302. Finance Committee recommends 500. Select Board recommends 500. And if I remember correctly, Linda, the 302 was 2 were not present. Or was that, can you clarify that vote? I don't remember.
That is correct.
That's it. Yes.
Okay. All right, Joyce, would you like to do Article 4?
Yes, I did see Dr. McKenzie on. Did she want to speak to this tonight, or would she like me to do that? Because
Chris is also here. You are certainly welcome to, and Chris is here. I'm a little under the weather, as you can hear. And if I turn my camera, my first evidence, no one wants to see. But
well,
Chris,
why doesn't Chris speak to it first, and then if he wants anything from me, then we can, I can add to it. So, Chris was the one preparing to do this for tomorrow night. So I think I'd like Chris to speak to that. Is that okay?
of course.
Okay, so Hadley Schools is asking for $1,069,531 to pay for the cost of a renovation for the boys and girls locker rooms at Hopkins. These locker rooms were originally built in 1965 and are unchanged since that date. So we've certainly gotten our money's worth out of them. But at this point in time, you can see by the slide up, the first picture is that's the only bathroom in the girls' locker room. So it's tiny, hard to get into, and that's the only one that they have. The other two slides are just examples of the lack of accessibility that the locker rooms have. Any kind of ADA compliance is obviously missing when you have things like in the middle picture. To get into another room, you have this elevation in between the floors that you have to either step over or, in the case of, say, a wheelchair or something, get over that little divider. And the picture to the far right just shows the benches that we have in front of the lockers. You can see how they're actually cemented into the floor. They're very snug in there. There's not a lot of room in between them and the lockers. And because of the way they're attached to the building, you can't move them to accommodate any kind of access as well. If we can just go to the next slide. So here's a few more pictures. To the left, the ventilation in the locker rooms was not the greatest. This is probably more so back when showers were being taken heavily in the locker rooms, and you can see this is one of the heating units in the locker room. It's all rusty, and they're like that. I mean, they're just really rusted and not functioning correctly. The middle picture just shows really how narrow the hallways are in there. I think if there's one person in front of a locker, you really can't get another person by. So again, access is limited. And the picture to the far right, that's taken from either the coach's or gym teacher's office, whoever's in the locker room at the time, and really just gives an example of the limited lines of sight that are in there. You really can't see the kids at all. The students are behind these tall walls, and there's really just no way to keep track of them in the rooms at this point in time. So these high walls were great when showers were used, but not so great now. The showers really are not used anymore, and yet we still have them all up, and what they're doing is taking up a lot of space, and also limiting the line of sight.
And I'll just add to that too, also, Chris. From the time that I was on school committee, and that's let's see, long time ago. I was been on the select board for 21 years, and I had 15 years on school committee. We talked always about getting this done because we had gone for addition and renovation to the school from the SBA, the building state building authority. And they said our building was in great shape. And yes, we have taken care of our buildings, but this is one area, boys and girls locker rooms, that did not get taken care of in a proper way to bring them up to code and what we needed to do. So this is long time overdue to get this done. My kids are in their 40s, and I don't think they took showers back then and way back then. So it's been a long time, I think, since kids have actually felt comfortable. And I think that's the key word, that they have not felt comfortable taking a shower in those locker rooms. So again, I think it's long time overdue and something that we should support. Hey, that looks good. Chris,
You're-
Chris,
you're muted.
you're muted.
My apologies, I'm sorry. This is not the actual locker room plan. Unfortunately, the plans that were done, oh, I don't know, probably 15 years ago or so, do not have like an artist rendition of what the locker rooms would look like. But this is what we have in mind with the lockers, for example. The lockers in these locker rooms, there's a lot of lockers in there. Some of them are 12 by 12, so they're very small. You can't fit an equipment bag in them. And even the full length lockers are incredibly narrow. So again, what happens is the kids just throw the bags on the floor everywhere because they can't get them in the lockers. So this is an example of, you can see there's upper and lower lockers in a lot of the spaces, and they're much wider than the existing lockers, so they'll be able to accommodate bags. Also, notice the increased spacing between the benches and between the benches and the actual lockers themselves for increased accessibility. So that is the design that we are looking to change them to.
That's a great visual for tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Chris, will you be speaking? Or Dr. McKenzie also said probably Chris Pipchinsky might be speaking also.
That is correct. We'll both be there tomorrow night.
Okay. We'll see you then. Anything else to add?
Oops. I have nothing. Does anyone have any questions?
No.
Looks pretty straightforward.
Jennifer, are there any hands raised anywhere that you can see?
No, there's not.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
So just to note, this is a debt exclusion article. So if it passes at town meeting, it will then go to a town ballot election in December.
Are there figures for how that would increase taxes?
Yeah, if you go back, I think a couple slides, yeah.
There's $96 the first year, and that divided by 4 per quarter, and then 10 years, 59 divided per quarter. So 5 years, 96. That's always good to have. 23 cents increase for the first 5 years. That seems doable for sure.
All right, thank you.
Right.
All right, Michael and Joyce, I don't know who's going to be speaking to this.
I think, Mike, you're going to take off on it first, I'm assuming, correct?
Totally up to you. We have a presentation for tomorrow night. So it's up to you if you just want to start it out. If not, I can, whatever you'd like.
Oh, I think this is yours, and I can always add to it afterwards if you want, but go ahead, and I think you've been warned by your wife.
Yeah, to keep it brief. So,
Sounds good. Go ahead, and I think there are some things there to tell us what the increase will be also, so we can go ahead, Mike.
okay.
Can you just say that what it is, the capital planning committee
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
recommended 212, finance committee 500, select board 500. So take it away, Mike.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like there was a little confusion, which I hopefully cleared up at the select board meeting. We are not asking for just a plain ladder truck. This is not, this would be a replacement for the truck that you see in the photo, which is a 2000 Seagraves mean stick. We have a little bit of a different plan for that truck rather than shipping it down the road. And we'll go through that, but we're requesting 2.15 million. The cost for a new ladder quint, which Jennifer was nice enough to put a Swiss Army knife up for us, called the Swiss Army knife of apparatus, because it is a multi-purpose vehicle that basically has everything on it so that we don't have to buy a separate ladder, solely a ladder truck, and then a pump. This truck has the ability to do an elevated master stream of water. You're capable of doing rescue with the ladder. It has a pump on it. 1,500 gallon minute pump, and it also has a 500 gallon water tank on it. The new ladder, based upon what we've learned over the past 23 years, is that we need to have a little bit longer of a ladder. Again, this truck is the truck that we're requesting is the priority is for life safety of our residents in the community, and then also for our firefighters. And we're asking folks to reinvest in that concept. I'm fortunate to have been taught and mentored by a lot of really great firefighters and chiefs, and they worked really hard on this truck back in the late 90s to try and save the town some money by moving into a single truck that can handle numerous projects. And the second part of it, the 1.5 or the 150,000, I'm sorry, is to refurbish the truck that you see in the video, our Hadley Engine 1. And that's so that we can move that up to the north end of town. It would add about 8 to 10 years of life to that truck. And again, we're talking a 36 to 38 month build for the new fire truck. So we wouldn't be seeing a new ladder truck in town until probably around 2028 if it was to be ordered for the end of the year. I did confirm today that we were concerned about the new EPA requirements that are coming out for the engines that these trucks need, and they're slated to go up in cost again sometime at the end of the year or the beginning of next year. And we're trying to get ahead of that if we can. I would also lock in the price that we would have quoted by the end of the year if we were to get it prior to the end of the year. So as far as refurbing, we would wait until the new ladder truck came in, and then we would ship at that time, it'll be a 28-year-old truck. And we would ship that out for refurb after it's evaluated to make sure that it's worth $150,000. And the intent is to move that ladder truck up, or that point up to the North Station, where it will serve the many houses and farms of the north end of town. And again, we're talking about a truck that handles every situation. Pumping, has a water tank, and elevated master stream, ability to put a ladder up quickly, and saves on staffing. So that's the ultimate plan. Again, we're not asking just for a ladder truck. These trucks are built to be accessible to, more difficult places to get into, driveways. Our truck's been to Northampton before because we were the only ones that could fit. So again, it was designed for that purpose. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Is it Lynn Latham has a hand up?
Yes, I was wondering if someone could please explain the capital planning committee vote of 212, please and thank you.
I think two people were absent, and then one person declined, and then two people voted yes.
I would suggest that would be helpful to explain at the beginning tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Okay, instead of just doing 212, then we can recommend two people voted yes, one people voted no, and two people were absent. So we can do that tomorrow night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike, I anticipate somebody will ask a question as to why we need a longer ladder than we have. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yes, just so lessons learned over the past 20 years. One of the first calls we had was to Barstow's Dairy Store, or Barstow's Farm, for one of their grain silos was on fire, and our ladder came up a little short on that one. Again, with all the new construction that we have, and this will be in that presentation, the height of these structures, photovoltaics, truss construction, so not being able to put firefighters on buildings. It's really important that we have the ability to have the reach that we need from a driveway. And again, yes, this ladder goes up 75 feet, but then it also has to reach out to what it needs to reach out to so that we can gain access to a roof or to a window. So if we pull into a driveway straight forward, this truck is 36 feet long. So we potentially lose 36 feet if we have to pull right up to the garage door to try and get the ladder up. But folks have to understand that there's times, especially with these larger structures, that we really need that extra length. And again, if you take a ride down West Street or Middle Street and you see a lot of these older style homes, a lot of different roof lines, roof pitches. If you think about wintertime, trying to crawl up a ladder, a ground ladder, with a roof ladder strapped to your back when you're already wearing an air pack and all sorts of other equipment that weighs up to 65 pounds to deploy that. If you can't reach, it's important that we do everything we can to try and establish that reach so that our firefighters are safe on a ladder truck versus having to go up a ground ladder.
Thank you.
And then we would go over the funding. Is there next slide? So it'll be 46.461 per thousand. And they're saying average value of a house in Hadley is 418, so it would be $193 the first year, and that'll be for 5 years actually. Then 10 years it goes to 0.284 at an average house of 418,000 at a cost of $118. So they can get that fixed in their mind on how much it will cost per $1,000 of what your next increase in your tax bill will be.
Could I ask one additional question, or if maybe Linda could clarify for when we purchased our engine 4 in 2016, we had put some funding down initially, but obviously we wouldn't be paying for this upfront. Is that correct, Linda, or would we start paying right away?
That's right. We'll be what did you say? This is 3 years out?
Yeah, if
3 years out. So
yep.
Yeah. So we need the vote. We need the town meeting vote on both counts for chief to go ahead and order the truck, and then we would be waiting a number of years on it. When the order is placed, the price is set, as I understand it. So so that's good. It won't increase during the time while it's being made. And then when it's delivered and we pay for it, then the borrowing would occur. And we start making payments a year after we borrow, because we borrow on full 1 year notes to start. So this is a bit bumped off a bit to the future. So one reason you're given 5 years and 10 years depends on what else we're borrowing at that time. Let's say we go right ahead with a school. So maybe we would choose the larger one to get some of those payments out of the way, and then ease in with the fire truck, or we would keep them both at the low, depending on how many items we're paying for. So we would aim to keep the payments down.
Amy Fiden had
what's on
Amy.
So my question is for Linda for tomorrow. So just so the taxpayer knows, which one are we looking at for payment? Because you have both listed. It's not a 15-year loan, because if I look at that, I almost think a 15-year where the first 5 years we pay this and then one. So which one are we going to tell them?
So that's what I'm trying to get at is if they both pass, we would probably do them over a longer period of time to keep the payments on both of them down. So, but we don't want to stretch out the payments so much, Amy, that if the town does decide to go ahead with with further payments on a DPW building, which we would be borrowing on later, we wouldn't want all those increases to happen at the same time. So at this point, if you're asking what I'm inclined to do, I would be inclined to start with the school at 5 years, and then when we start on the truck, we'd move them both down to paying them over 10, and then that would take care of the school quickly, and then we'd move on and finish up the fire truck. So if both of them passed and we were to borrow them right now, it would be $170 increase in the first year on both of them. but that situation just isn't going to happen because we're not borrowing on that kind of a time frame, and we don't expect to be paying both of them at that option. So we will do our best to keep it down. But if you think in terms of both of them costing, 100 to 150 for the
So I
duration.
understand what your theory is and why you're saying some might be 5-year better and some is 10. But don't you have to have a set amount when we go to the ballot and tell people what their increase is going to be? Do you have to have a set?
Well, this is why these are the figures that we'll need to use.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're not going to. These aren't going into bonds because they can be paid off within 10 years. We're going to be doing them on short-term notes, and so that's why each year we will pay off what we can. So it's not like a flat 5-year. We're not going to get it perfect. Okay. So, but this has been traditionally what we have come up with for the cost and how to calculate it, and then quite honestly, they usually come in less than that, but we can't. We have to have a good basis for our figures.
And Dee had her hand up. Dee.
Dee, if you want to unmute. Okay. Emily Pfeiffer and Lynn Latham both have their hands up.
Hi, quick question. Are these the only things that would increase the rate? And is there anything that's falling off that's, a payment that's expired that might decrease it at the same time?
That would be Linda.
I thought I unmuted. These are the only borrowings this year. We do the capital in the fall. At this point, this is the only amount that we're. These are the two items that will be debt exclusion. Neither will hit until. Neither will hit. Even the school won't hit the tax rate until 25, FY 25. And are other things falling off? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And that begins to happen more dramatically in 2 years, which is about when this is going to hit. So
that might be helpful to hear. Yeah, like what will the final rate be, kind of thing. I feel like that'd be helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, it's hard to do it that way. Thinking back on how we represented the buildings, which was accurate. Yes, okay. I will think on that and see if I can come up with a better way of explaining it. Thank you.
I gotcha. Thanks.
Well, Linda, usually what you say is that during the course of the year, you always pull together what we owe, and we go to bond and see what the best bond rating is for us, and put all those notes and things together. So usually that's what you do and bring back to us, and put everything lump sum into something. So usually that's how you present it to us. So that's something to think about.
Okay.
Lynn Latham.
Since the refurbishment of the existing ladder truck is quite a few years out for the 150,000, are you still going to ask for the full amount at the outset? But again, that will be many years out before it actually hits the tax rate?
The refurb of the truck, which would occur after we receive the new ladder, the estimates are between 3 to 6 months for that refurbishment. So the $150,000 after they do a review of the truck to make sure, that would be after that time frame. So the other portion that I should have probably brought up is the intent of doing the refurb of this engine 1 will allow for hopefully an additional 8 to 10 years of life to that truck, which would then push off the need for us to come to the town. We have a 2006 pumper up at our North Station right now, and we would basically trade that in and not have, we would pull out of the capital, which I believe we have in year, I believe it's 2028. We would pull that off because this truck would replace that. We're hoping that we can push this truck to a 35-year truck.
Okay, till tomorrow. Next, Carolyn.
Article 6. So Article 6 is a housekeeping one. Bills come in after the FY23 closes. So we're required to authorize the payment for them. So in this case, we have Omasta Landscaping coming out of free cash. We have Pioneer Valley Planning coming out of free cash. We have Quincy Compressor coming out of the water reserves. We have R.R. Donnelly coming out of free cash. We have 2 different Eversource, one coming out of free cash and the other coming out of the sewer reserves. We have Comprehensive Environmental coming out of free cash. We have the Daily Hampshire Gazette also coming out of free cash, and we have prior year salary for the library coming out of free cash. The Finance Committee recommended this at 500, and the Select Board recommends it at 500. So it'll be a total of $17,603.20. Questions? All right.
And community preservation will be presented by Mary Thayer.
Very good. So we have updated figures, and they've actually, the 2,164,395 that you showed at the very beginning is the most current available funds. This was a month ago, and this is what it was then. Jennifer, I don't know if this can be quickly updated, or I'll just use these figures tomorrow night.
I can update it. I didn't want to change numbers without you, so I'll update it for you tomorrow.
Okay, I'd sent you an email with the new ones for each of those, so that'll be good. But and then we have already reserved $1,228,668 for projects that have already been approved. So our total is $3,393,063 in the CPA fund. But the ones that are available for the 3 categories that we have are the $2,164,395. Is there another slide, or is this?
Should be more.
Okay. The CPA fund last year was our biggest year yet at 631,000 total. That's the town portion plus also the state matched it at 94%. The Hadley adopted the CPA at town meeting on May 4th, 2004. And we've had a total of just under 7 million so far in the CPA fund. 58% has come from the town, and almost 3 million, or 42%, has come from the state, which has enabled Hadley to put that money towards projects Hadley felt was important through votes at town meeting. Nice slide, Jennifer. Thank you. Some of the big projects that we've completed, the cemetery stones that has been completed through the CPA fund. Cemetery stones were repaired in all 5 town cemeteries. Fences and walls were done in the cemeteries. The Lake Warner Dam restoration was in part through CPA funds. And so far, 1,400 acres of farmland have been preserved using some portion of CPA funds at 30 different properties. This is a Turka Park restoration. Golden Court windows were just completed this year, and the previous projects there as well. And there's been work on the town hall, Russell School, Goodwin, And then the Hopkins Fields, phase 1 was over 2,000 feet of walkway for community use, and the junior varsity baseball field and the junior varsity softball field. And starting some of the work on the soccer was all done in phase 1, and phase 2 is very much underway, as I'm sure people have noticed. Next, yeah. And then the current projects, the town hall pillars are certainly well underway. The Hopkins Fields, the Hockenham Cemetery fence is mostly done. It's kind of moving slowly for the final bit, but it's mostly done. And then the First Congregational steeple repair is going along. They've run into some issues that have solved it a little bit as well. Carolyn, I don't know if you want to say anything else on any of those, but okay.
No, that's fine.
Okay. So when we present articles to town meeting, we do put a time limit on it just to keep the funds have been taken out of the available and put into a reserve. And, you know, if a project is not going to be finished or is finished and has extra money, we want to make sure that, you know, we keep track of it. So we have been putting 2 years. We're going to look at putting 3 years for future projects because things seem to just take a while. But here's 3 projects that have all asked for extensions. The town hall pillars are certainly well underway, but they're going to need a little bit more time. And they were funded under 2 different articles. And so ask for extension for that. And then the Hockenham Cemetery fence needs some more time as well. Those were all to be done by this special town meeting or an extension asked for. Community Preservation Act recommends 800, Finance 500, and Select Board 500. We do have an Article 8. There is a new request for CPA funds. And should I be the one to read this? Okay. Or will the moderator be reading it, or? Well, I'll do it for right now. To see if the town will vote to no, this is not it. Oh, $6,550,000 from the Community Preservation Act Historic Set Aside Fund and $118,850 from the Community Preservation Act Undesignated Fund for a total of $125,400 to the St. John's Realty Trust for preservation of the exterior of the building at 146 Russell Street, which is formerly St. John's Church, including roof replacement, repair of window frames, tower restoration, and gutter repairs. Work is to follow the Secretary of the Interior standards of rehabilitation. A grant agreement from the Select Board will be required before work can start that includes a requirement that a historic preservation restriction be placed on the property. And is it also, okay, another requirement of the grant agreement will be if the property is sold within 5 years of the approval of this article, the funds will be returned to the town. Said funds to be expended under the direction of the town administrator within 3 years of the date of the town meeting approval. Any unspent funds will automatically be returned to the foregoing Community Preservation Act fund by that date, or take any action relative thereto. A few comments on this. This building is historic from 1902. It was the first, it sort of was the first church. It was a Catholic church, but it sort of showed the diversity of the town at that time was beyond just Congregationalism. And it's certainly a part of the center of historic buildings. When we talked with the owner, Paul Kozub, of the building, when public funds are used for a private building, they need to have a public benefit. And he had originally requested funds for interior work and some exterior work that really isn't a benefit to the public. By putting a historic preservation on this building, the building needs to be kept looking like it does from the outside. So it would continue to add to the character of that part of town. And the benefit the committee felt for the public good was the visual from the outside. So keeping the roofs, the windows, the exterior looking good and restored seemed an appropriate use of CPA funds. And this is recommended by the Community Preservation Act Committee 700, Finance Committee 311, and the Select Board recommended 410. Questions and comments? Jim?
I don't know if this is appropriate for this meeting or for tomorrow's town meeting, but what does tower restoration mean?
So the Secretary of Interior Standards has a page of what it means, and it means pretty much like materials. So if you're replacing a roof, using public funds through the CPA, it should be in the same material or something that looks very similar to it. And if you need to change something because those materials just aren't available, you have to photograph everything, document, what was and then what is coming. So it's a federal standard to try to keep the building as it should be, looking like it was in 1902.
Okay. Considering the issues that the First Church has run into with their steeple, I question if the same issues may arise on this steeple. If that's the case, then this funding could be short.
He has gotten bids for doing it. I think this steeple is much smaller. I don't know how much of a difference that makes in the complexity.
Well, the First Church had bids too, but when it came right down to it, the problem that has run into. So I would just make sure that the bids are capable contractors.
Thank you. Yeah. Other comments or questions?
Okay, tomorrow night.
Any other suggestions for tomorrow night?
No. Let it roll on town meeting.
Very good, thank you.
I think, Mary, just be ready to answer questions about the various parts of the building they're asking to rehab, and be able to tell the people that it's all allowed under the CPA rules and regulations for whatever reasons they are.
Yeah, and Paul Kozub will be there as well to answer, he'll be a better one to answer specific questions in terms of the work being done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, this is planning. I'm not sure if Bill or Jim is going to be speaking to this.
You want me to take it, Jim?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. This is a very technical amendment, changing the time in which other boards have to comment on small-scale ground-mounted solar installations from 35 days to 21 days. The reason we're making the change is that if we stay with the 35 days, it takes 6 weeks from when the application is filed until we can actually discuss it. By changing it to 21 days, we cut 2 weeks off of it because we only meet twice a month. So we can take it up a month after it's been filed. The failure of other boards or departments to make recommendations only speaks to the zoning aspect of things. This does not, the building inspector still has the authority to issue a building permit. The fire chief still has authority to require fire safe electrical connections. So really, it's just it just affects timing of our public hearings on a zoning matter.
This is also, if a applicant comes in for site plan approval for a major development or any development, and they have their plans in order, and they apply on the first Tuesday or second Tuesday, third Tuesday of the month, typically 1 month later, 4 weeks, 30 days, give or take, we can schedule and conduct the public hearing. If somebody comes in for a ground mount solar, which is typically a pretty simple project, it seems like we're penalizing the homeowner or anybody else and making them wait a longer time than we would for a major contract of putting in a big site plan. So this will cut them down to at least equal within 1 month later when they apply to when we can review their plan. Questions?
Sounds like a reasonable request.
Next.
You or me, Bill?
I wrote this one, so I guess I'll take it. We discovered in a couple of hearings that the signs in the residence district and the agricultural residential districts are currently restricted to 2 square feet. We're proposing increasing it to 4 square feet, primarily for more visibility. This is just by comparison, the average political signs, which we see sprouting in the spring, are about 3 square feet. So we're just concerned that, especially for someone who has a home business, that if there's such a tiny sign, it's likely to be missed. And it also would not be commercially available. It would have to be special made to come in at 2 square feet, whereas something up to 4 square feet, and remember, this is just 2 feet by 2 feet max. Something closer to 4 square feet, between 3 and 4 square feet, you can generally acquire pretty easily locally. They are linked together here. They're changes to 2 sections, and they're linked together because one is the home occupation, one is the sign bylaw, one is the home occupation bylaw, and we don't want to change one without changing the other. That would just be silly. So that's why they're linked together. Up or down vote on both of them. Any questions on that one?
Jane's got her hand up.
Do zoning bylaw changes, are they a simple majority or are they 2/3?
2/3.
I think we should say that as it starts.
Typically, the moderator says that.
Thank you.
And yes, and we did recommend this 500.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right, Molly, you're going to go over the opioid articles.
Yep. Yeah. So just really going to kind of make comments for the 3 articles. So articles 11, 12, and 13 are all related to the opioid fund. So basically what's happened is that the Attorney General in Massachusetts, as well as many other Attorney Generals across the country, have settled lawsuits. We've all read about them against opioid manufacturers, distributors, retailers, for their role in contributing to the devastation that's been caused by the opioid crisis, including overprescribing and not providing oversight in opioid abuse of patients. So the settlement provides that the defendants pay states and municipalities billions of dollars annually. Current end date on this is set for 2038 to supplement and strengthen resources for opioid prevention, harm reduction, treatment, and recovery. So Hadley, just our municipalities anticipated that over that period of time will receive likely in excess of $300,000. So the three articles, kind of a logical step process. The first thing that we need to do, which is Article 11, is to actually establish an opioid settlement stabilization fund. So that is what the voters are going to be asked to do. The second logical step is that we have received or are receiving $45,838.47. And we need to move that from the general fund into the opioid settlement stabilization fund. So that would be step 2. And then once that stabilization fund actually has the monies available, Article 13 is now authorizing the town to vote to go ahead and utilize those funds for a lawful municipal purpose that was set out in the original article. So that's what we're asking town meeting to do. In terms of the voting requirements, Articles 11 and 13 do require a 2/3 majority. The funding article is a simple majority.
Mr. Moderator has a question.
Yeah, this is not a moderator question. This is just a Kirk question. Sometimes with federal monies, strings are attached. Are there any strings attached to us that we have to match a certain amount of money or anything like that? Because any money coming out of the town of Hadley related to this article, I guess I should say.
No. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Carolyn.
Yeah, there is no strings attached, and it's as long as I have to do reporting for it, as long as it shows that the money is directly going towards education and prevention for opioid abuse.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay. So if not, I think, Jane, you've got the next one, Article 14.
I do. This is to see if the town will accept a private road as a public way. And it accepts that, so it's legally belongs to the town. And the planning board approves of this article, and the DPW states that the road has been brought up to the town standard. Are there
any questions?
If none, I'll just go over the recommendations again, not in the opioid as well. It was planning board 5-0 for Birch Meadow Lane. Select board is 5-0. And then we didn't do the opioid, but that was the select board. Finance committee was 5-0-0, and the select board recommends 5-0-0. So that is it. Any questions?
Our board is meeting at 6:30 tomorrow, correct?
6
tomorrow.
6:30.
Oh, I'm sorry.
6:30.
Yeah, we went back and forth.
We in the gym or the cafeteria?
Carolyn. Cafeteria.
Okay.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
I was just going to ask for that.
Second.
All right. Motioned by Joy, seconded by Randy. Roll call vote, please.
Roll call vote. Keegan?
Yes.
Chunglo?
Yes.
Parsons?
Yes.
Nevin Smith,
Yes.
and Iser.
Yes.
All right. We'll see you guys all
you.
tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Have a good night.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.